So first and foremost, thank you guys for taking out of your day, time out of your day, and connecting with us and learning a little bit about Georgia. I'm an investor relations specialist here at MF Capital Partners, and I have with us Eric Blackwell, our acquisition director for MF Capital Partners. He is here to discuss with us the exciting market in Middle Georgia that we're targeting and looking towards. So yeah, without any more delay, Eric.
All right. So excited to be on here today. I guess daytime for some of you still on the West Coast, and excited to discuss what we're doing here. As Enrique mentioned, I get this cool little title called the Acquisition Director. And so what does that kind of mean? As you know, here at MF Capital, we run a thing called the Aloha Fund. We also do other types of investments that we would call more like a 506B or a syndication. And so I get to find all the properties that the fund buys is kind of the goal there. And so the part that I like going out and scouring for deals, I've told my investors for years that it's kind of an adrenaline rush for me. You know, some people get their adrenaline off of underwriting deals and the math of it all. I get it out of just the hunt of the deal. And so recently, the reason we're doing this webinar here, I'm going to share some slides with you in just a second, but we've kind of updated our buy box. And we've gone through and we've looked at different things that really matter to us in a market. Where do we want to be investing and what kind of properties do we want to be looking at? And I want to share a little bit about that with you today as far as the market goes and what we're seeing, and why we updated it and what numbers stick out to us. Because not only did we pull all new numbers on this, thankful to a lot of our team, we actually graded them of which ones matter most to us in this economy right now. And so we want to discuss one of the markets that we're really excited about. You'll hear it called a couple different things like Middle Georgia, Center Georgia. And so I'm going to show you a little map of what we're discussing there. And so let me go ahead and share my screen here and pull up some slides for you guys of what we're going to kind of get into here. And I'll make it real nice and big and so everyone can kind of see it. So like I said, this kind of little market report to us, we came out and we just kind of said, what things do we really want out of a market, right? And you're going to see a slide here in a second where we outline a bunch of these. What do we want to see? What should that market be producing right now? You know, we're sitting in a market where over the last year and a half, interest rates have climbed quite a bit. We've seen vacancies go up in quite a few markets. We've seen rent rates start to slow down from where they were going. And I think you need to be even more strategic today than ever of what market you're going to actually attack. And so, as I've mentioned again, we updated that recently. And so the purpose to me of this webinar here and why we wanted to jump on with you guys is just stuff that we're pretty excited about that we've learned as we've studied really hard the markets over the last little bit at what we're looking at. And so, you know, what do we look for in a market if we're updating our buy box and where we want to be market wise? Obviously, things like this really matter to us. Job growth, is there employment coming into the area? And not only is there employment coming in, but what type of employment, right? We want, I like the term renter income jobs coming into that market. And so you look at something, I always use the example of a hospital. You know, what's a hospital bring? I think everyone hears hospital and they think doctors and they make lots of money and they buy houses. When I see a hospital, I know this, the doctors are not the ones running that hospital. It's called nurses, administration, janitorial services. And unfortunately, nurses do not make the type of money that they deserve. And we got a lot of CNAs and RNs and that are just in need still of a rental property, right? Not buying homes. And so I see a hospital come in. We see military stuff. We see tech jobs that are geared more toward the younger generation. So what type of employment is coming in? And then is there diversity? Any of you tried to get a loan from Fannie and Freddie? No, they don't love it when you have one employment taking up the whole city, basically, you know? And so you have one employer there that's, if they one day shut down and it takes away 80% of your tenant base, that's a problem, right? So we want to see diversity in that economy. And that's kind of one of the biggest things we graded out when we updated our market search and when we determine what's the next step of markets that we're going to do. And I'll tell you, back up a little bit, one of the things that we never want people to do, investors, and we try not to do, is scatter themselves out across the country, right? You go out and you buy a property in St. Louis, where I'm at right now. You go buy a property in Southern California, you go buy one in Chicago, you go buy one in New Jersey, and next thing you know, you've got 6 properties and they're spread across the whole US. You'll find the ability to sell off a portfolio so much better and easier and so much more profitable than selling off individual properties in each market. So when we look at this, like, our goal is not to buy one property in one market and then move on to another one. We're digging in deep because we want to build a portfolio in this market that we're going to discuss today. And so diversity of economy, the population, is it growing? We're going to look at that. Not only growing, at what age is it growing? So I'm going to show you a chart here in a minute. What is the 20 to 29-year-old range doing? What is the 30 to 39? And where's the growth coming from? We know renters are going to be, a lot of that mid to high 20 range, not 45 to 50-year-olds. And so what's that population growth? Rent growth, obviously a big deal. There's not 2 words I love more in multifamily investing than value add. And one of the best value adds we ever have is just through rent growth. Can we increase rents as leases come and expire? And so we're going to look at that along with it also. And hopefully, I want a few things off of this webinar tonight. I don't want it to just be, why is MF Capital buying there? I think you should know that and understand that. But also, as you now go and research your market of Indianapolis or Omaha, Nebraska, or Tulsa, Oklahoma, what should your market be hitting right now? And so occupancy in the market, how constrained is that supply, and is the occupancy going to stay high? I'm going to show you one of the counties that we're going to look at today in Center, Georgia. They have today in the whole county only 367 units, 5 buildings. And the only thing that they have currently under construction is a 12-unit building in the multifamily world. So if it's at a high occupancy today and the population is growing, but there's not more apartments coming, guess what our occupancy keeps doing, right? And then we're allowed, because of supply and demand, to start increasing those rents a little bit. And so we want to look at that. And then we're going to discuss some factors like schools, crime, transportation, age demographics, these things that will also matter. And so I'm going to pop this up at the end, this slide again. Like, did we discuss all these things? And we will for sure as we go into this. And just so you know, there is a chat feature here. If you do have questions along the way, that's what Enrique is here to help me do, is just kind of monitor that a little bit. So you can type in a chat. We'll try to get to all of them. We might not get to all of them depending on time tonight, but we'll definitely help answer them. And then if we need to, we can jump on with some of you individually to answer your questions also about the market, okay? So make sure if you have a question, you're thinking about it, or putting it in that chat box there as we continue on here, okay? So give you an idea, you heard Enrique mention it a little bit. You're going to hear it called Middle Georgia, Center Georgia, whatever you want to call it, but you're seeing right in here, you're going to see this little red star. This is actually what's called Monroe County. Monroe County, there's actually 8 little counties that make up Middle Georgia. And we currently own a property in one right now called Robbins County. We're looking at another property in one called Bibb County. And then we actually are under contract today on a property in Monroe County. And that's one that I'll focus on a little bit more on this call. But they all make up this Middle Georgia area here, right? You're talking where, for example, the next property we're buying that's under contract right now, you're about 45 to 60-minute drive, depending on when you leave Atlanta, right? And do you leave from North Atlanta or South Atlanta? As some of you know, well, I grew up in Southern California. And I'll tell you this, as someone from Southern California, Atlanta has a traffic problem. And so it's, if you've ever driven the 75 at the wrong time of day, you know how that can be. And so you would see from Middle Georgia here, you're going to be a couple hours from Augusta, a couple hours from Valdosta. Valdosta is going to be as you just come up above the Florida state line into Georgia there, and then Savannah. But we're going to focus more all within about 40-minute range within that red star there. Areas like Macon, areas like Warner Robins, where we actually already own a property called Arden Place. And then this new area, Monroe County, or specifically an area called Forsyth, Georgia, a little pocket of Monroe County there as we go along. Give you one of the biggest things that it has, just to show you a couple maps. It's going to be a little bit hard to see here, but basically, can you see my cursor there, Enrique?
Yeah, I can see it. We're good.
So you're going to see this is Macon right here that I'm circling, okay? We own a property right now in this area called Warner Robins. So what this freeway is that comes up right here, this is called the 75. And then the 75 comes over here and it cruises up into this area called Forsyth, where we're under contract now on a property. And then Forsyth, about another, once again, 45 minutes, you'd get to the airport, which is South Atlanta. An hour would get you into Atlanta, right? Once again, depending on time of day and traffic and everything, as you can see kind of the area here. And so why is that big? Just the transportation. Anyone that's driven from Warner Robins or Macon on that 75 up to Atlanta know how much construction's happening there right now. They're expanding it. The state bought a big piece of bought a big piece of land there to do something that we're going to discuss here in a minute also. So you're seeing a lot of construction in that area, a lot of industrial, a lot of manufacturing coming in, things that we're excited to, because when I think, once again, industrial manufacturing, Warner Robins Air Force Base there, what do we think? Renter income jobs, right? Not high paying jobs where people are buying houses. We think renter income is what really excites us about it. And so I want to go over a few just kind of the major employers there. Monroe County Schools. Just so you know, there's a big school district in Monroe County that oversees 5 schools right now. All 5 schools are 5-star rated schools, which is their highest thing. And so they're great schools there. Georgia Power, Monroe County Hospital, which is a hospital like we were just discussing, and then Georgia Department of Corrections. One of the things you'll hear about Forsyth, Georgia, for example, Forsyth is actually considered the safety capital of Georgia. And I don't know where they came up with that, but just it's not like it doesn't have any crime, but I think it's mainly because of the police presence there. And then also that all the training is there for the academies, but this Georgia Department of Correction. So as you look at some of these major employers that are in that area right there. Also military presence, like we were just talking now down there in Warner Robins. So that's a base that's been there for literally like 80 years. As you'll see there, it was established in 1941. It's not going anywhere. 24,000 military and civilian members in that thing, $4 billion worth of salaries in that Air Force Base. It's really what turned us on when we bought our first property in Middle Georgia called Arden Place there in Middle Georgia. And so obviously, once again, military, heavy renters, a lot of people needing places to stay. And so you've got, it is, by the way, that Air Force Base is literally the state's largest single employer. I know the airport employs more people, but it's not just one employer, right? And so that is the biggest single employer in the state of Georgia, actually, okay? Other ones coming in, when we look at things that excite us of what's coming in, right? And so you're going to see some of it right here with, adding these warehouse or wholesale warehouse jobs, Jack Links, Coca-Cola, Silicon Ranch, P&G. So you're getting some big names that are doing it. Like you'll see the Jack Link one there. They're coming in and breaking ground, as it says, on a $450 million plant in Perry, just a little right closer to Warner Robins. It's going to be their biggest project yet. And so it's a big deal for an area like that once again is constrained in living space, right? And number of units and stuff. And so we'll discuss how our other properties performing there potentially also on this call, so you can kind of get an idea of that as we cruise around on it. Macon, for example, which is about 20 minutes away from Forsyth, Georgia. Macon has got a large Geico office space there. It's one of their main employers. So you're seeing big name companies there, not only that they've been there for years, but they're also coming in and they're adding space. They're developing more to their work sites there. And so, it's not like Coca-Cola wasn't there. It's just that they're expanding and adding new jobs, right? I mean, that Jacklink one's supposed to bring in 800 jobs itself, which is, once again, a big deal in a small market like that, right? Keep going here for a few things because I want to get into some other stuff. Frito-Lay, I tell you, a lot of manufacturing, obviously, with Middle Georgia there. And so Purdue, Frito-Lay, some other ones that are coming in that are bringing in a decent amount of jobs also. And so I don't want to feel like I'm going through this too fast. Just want to point out a bunch of stuff that's there. Do we have any questions right yet that you want to hit yet, Enrique, before I move on to some other stuff?
No questions
Okay.
yet.
Perfect.
Terrence is he's from the St. Louis area.
Oh,
Shout out to
cool.
St. Louis for Terrence. Yep. But
Tell him to
no,
stop
nothing.
the rain so I can go to the baseball game tonight, man. Wanted to go to the Cardinals game tonight. That's why I'm here, man. It's well to do some properties, but always double dip, right? You always double dip your work trips, right? With some fun stuff. And so I expected a game, but I don't know. It was raining pretty hard for a few hours there. All right. Here's the constrained market I was talking about. So Forsyth, once again, sits in what's called Monroe County. We'll go over a couple different ones. Monroe County right now literally only has in the county 7 multifamily properties. And the only thing that's under construction, you'll see here in a second, is a 12 unit right now. And so there's nothing currently being built other than that. Or did I say 12, 24 unit, excuse me if I didn't say that right. And so with the projected growth that you're going to see here in a minute that they're saying is going to come into this area with no new apartments under construction and right now in the mid to high 90% occupancy out of these, then it's just going to continue to constrain that market, which is a good thing for our rent rates as we continue to go up from there, right? And so it's definitely a constrained market where, so give you kind of just a little update. We're actually, what's really exciting is we're going to hold another webinar kind of like this coming up here real soon, where we actually then go deep into the properties that we're buying, right? So we own the one, like I mentioned, in Warner Robins. We're under contract on a property in Forsyth, Georgia, and we're actually putting in an LOI on another one sitting in Macon. And so we're hitting this whole middle Georgia area, right, where we just know we can grow it right now. The next one here, as you see, whoops, I think I might have, no, I'm good. It's coming up on the next one. Sorry. Population growth. This is what I was mentioning. When I pull statistics on this marker right here, you'll see that it shows that population growth is going to be 4.4% projected, right, over the 5 years. To us, that's awesome, but not if the biggest population growth is going to be the 40, 50, 60-year-olds, right? We want the population growth to be coming from that key demographic that we're going to be renting to. And that, who do we rent to? B properties. We're going to rent in this 20 to 29, 30 to 39, right? And so when I see that the 20 to 29-year-olds are growing at 7%, 3% higher than the market is growing there, then that's an awesome thing. And so we're getting in that key age demographic that we want to hit on these properties here, right? And so just something to kind of keep in mind as we're looking at it there, okay? I'll show you here too, along with that population growth, limited supply, constrained market, whatever you want to call it. Right now, Monroe County averages 96% occupancy out of those 357 units. That's the 5 apartments that are already there, right? Including ours. So I just want to stress that it's extremely, I use that word, it's extremely constrained right now, right? And the average household income there you'll see on the left is 82,000 within a 3-mile radius of our next property. Obviously, it'll shift as you go between Macon and Warner Robins and Forsyth in these areas, but you've got a limited supply, you've got a decent income, and you've got a population growth coming in with lots of new jobs coming. And that's why, you know, backing up to what we talked about at the start, when we updated our kind of our buying criteria, our market criteria, our buy box, this market just really screamed to us. I really thought it was going to be Indianapolis, which we like. I thought it was going to be Tulsa to Oklahoma City, which we like. But this one just really screamed out to us when we looked at the Milken reports and everything else that we study on these. And so you'll see why it really just kind of jumped out to us here, okay? We'll keep cruising here. Rent growth projections. So you'll see here by the year 28, 29, they look at a 25% rent growth from 24. So we're going to focus on that green right now on the property we're looking at. That's Monroe County. And so you'll see what Monroe County's doing compared to Macon, which is in Bibb County. And so you can see both of them, though, just with extreme rent growth potential right now. And I always look at these numbers a little careful. Like, we're very careful where we pull our data from. You know, anyone could go put something on Google right now and stuff. And so we make sure we're looking at legitimate things like the Milken report and different stuff like that. But, you know, I look at a number like this and think, geez, what if it grows only 30% of that? We'll take a 10% rent growth, you know, over the next few years. But if it hits 25, better. But, you know, when we run our projections, we might not go all the way to that 25 number. We might be a little bit more conservative with it, right? Especially when we start presenting this out to our investors like we're going to do next week. And so we just want to be very conservative with our numbers. Like I have in my projection on our property in Forsyth, I've got a 3% rent growth a year. So we're talking 15% over the next 5 years, where they're telling us it's going to be closer to 25, right? So we just want to stick with that. But obviously rent growth is a big deal. If you've been studying markets lately, a lot of the big markets, the Atlanta, the Orlando, the Houston, the whatever, you're starting to see a rise in vacancies. You're starting to see a decline in rent growth projections and stuff like that. And so it's exciting to see this one still growing the way that it is right now, right? With these rent growth projections. So yeah, let me hit a few other things and then we'll take some questions and stuff too. I mentioned it earlier, safety capital of Georgia is what they'll call it in Monroe County there. You know, it's the head of the correction system, the Georgia Public Safety Training. So they train and have all their law enforcement is trained there. And so I think a lot of them end up staying, but is kind of one of the reasons that they call it that. I've driven up into that area quite a few times, not only just to go to Atlanta. I was in Atlanta last weekend. You know, it's an easy drive from where I live now in Florida. And so it's just, you're seeing just so much growth. I mean, if we could go back and look at that one slide, right? Frito-Lay, Coca-Cola, Jack Links, you've got a Japanese auto part supplier coming in. I would pronounce their name, but I'll look like an idiot doing it. They're bringing in a lot of jobs. And so you're just seeing a ton of growth. And like the growth's coming too from things that really matter in the rental world, right? Manufacturing, Air Force, you know, so military, hospitals, like the Monroe County Hospital expanding, all this stuff that we like to see, industrial jobs. You know, they're expanding the freeway over the next few years, which is going to bring in a lot of renter jobs also for the labor that's there. And so it's exciting for us to see this. And I think you're probably seeing through my voice here, a lot of you that know me through fast tracks and different things I've taught you, is it's really exciting to me, you know, Center Georgia here. It's really exciting to be there. I'll tell you this, we do have the one property. We're under contract now on another one. I am looking next weekend at one that we're submitting an LOI on there. Like MF Capital is not stopping just with those 2-3 properties. MF Capital's got a huge desire to continue to build a pretty decent sized portfolio there. And so, like I said at the start of this call, I hope you're getting a couple things out of this. What can you take to your market that you need to know when you're studying your market and going in and looking at your criteria? And then see if Middle Georgia is not a place where you want to invest a little, right? Because what's going to happen here soon is I'm going to jump on a webinar. You're going to get an invite, all those that have been on this one. You're going to get an invite to be on a webinar with Tyler and myself, Tyler Devereaux, and we're going to discuss a couple of investments there. You know, for years, we've purchased a lot of our properties under a fund through a 506C, and we're going to be introducing a couple of these over a 506B, which is exciting because we're allowed to take up a certain number of non-accredited investors that can get in. So a lot of people that, you know, have so much money but can't get into bigger deals, then we're going to look at potentially allowing you to come in on some of these here with us. And that's going to be an exciting webinar here in the next few days also.
Yeah, so anybody that I've spoke with in the past that I've been discussing having a 506B opportunity available for you guys. A lot of you guys have been very patient and waiting. And so, yeah, we have the news, and today's the day. You know, we're, of course, discussing the market and, of course, creating that build up in order to have Tyler go ahead and present that property that we're all excited about. So thank you for your patience. And yeah, go on.
Yeah, I'll show you how you can hear about the next webinar also here in just a minute. But yeah. Premium school district, as we mentioned already on here. So the district size is 5 schools in Monroe County, pretty small, right? Obviously, some of you got probably 50 schools in your district there. But you can see some of the statistics that it has, right? It's a 14-to-1 student teacher ratio. They're in the top 20 district rank overall. And so they've got a high graduation rate. All 5 schools there have a 5-star rating, which is the highest rating in Georgia. And so good schools in the area. Obviously, you can go, once again, we're talking right now a few different things. We're talking Forsyth and Monroe County, where we're buying now. We're talking also another county like Bibb County and Robbins County. And so some numbers will shift as you go from one to the next. but to just kind of give you an idea of our next one that we're purchasing, this 96 unit building in Forsyth. So this is the one I was telling you about. I just wanted to kind of get close to wrapping up with, is that 1,100 acre mega site purchased. And so, you know, Georgia's been very friendly state, like some other states, in having businesses come in and stuff. And so they're building an 1,100 acre industrial park near Warner Robins. And so they're calling it an industrial park. It's going to have a lot of manufacturing and suppliers and stuff coming in. And so it's just 15 miles west of Warner Robins, where we have our property already. And so, but once again, that 75 is the big deal there, right? You got the railroad line where you get a lot of this manufacturing coming in and out, tons of highways, the ports of Savannah, all that within reach of here. And so another thing that's really excited us about this market right here. Now, so, you know, to me, and then we'll get into some questions. What do we look for in a market? You know, job growth. There's definitely job growth coming in from big people to Jack Links, Coca-Cola, Frito-Lay. The military base continues to grow, this mega site coming in, right? We talk about types of employment: military, hospital, corrections officers, training of police officers, you know, the different industrial site coming in now. Very, very diverse economy is another thing that we're looking at with all that, right? So is why we're looking at this population growth. Not only population growth, I'll put up with it also the rent growth, right? Why is the rent going to grow? Is that population is growing the way they say it is, and the market's so constrained on no new units coming into Monroe County. I mean, what do we learn? Economics 101, right? Supply and demand. As more and more demand come into that market to live and the supply shrinks up, because it's already Monroe County 95, 96% occupied. And as that gets more and more occupied there, then guess what happens to rents, right? They just start growing up and are growing and stuff. And so we're excited about that one. Occupancy in the market, how constrained is supply? We discussed that quite a bit. And then, you know, schools, definitely. Safety capital for crime. It's the safety capital of Georgia. Transportation, because you're right off the 75 there, and different ways and highways that you can get around. And then the age, the big thing, the demographic we want is growing, that mid to late 20s. That's the demographic into the 30s too, that we want to see the growth coming from, right? And so it's really one of the reasons why we just are very excited. Tyler really wanted me to get on this webinar tonight and just show you our excitement for Middle Georgia. Why are we buying there? We don't go into a market because we think properties are cheap. We don't go into markets, you know, because someone told us they're really good. I wish you could sit in on a meeting where we just totally dive into a market. Our team, we meet all the time here, Enrique and our asset managers and our team here, and we discuss these things, right? And we grade them. What's going to be the most important thing to us through job growth and diversity of it and employment. And then we give them ratings and stuff to decide where we're going to go. And that's why we're hitting pretty heavy this market right here, right? So let me look at a couple of these things here real quick. Yeah, including ours, man. Do you like that one? Only 5 including ours. So Enrique, you got any questions in that chat bot there, or anything that we want to discuss here?
Yeah, I had a pretty good one here. Basically, as you know and mentioned, we like to build portfolios in the market. That's kind of what we're going back to,
Yep.
and what's had success with us in the past. So I had a potential looking to get sponsored, etc.,
Yep.
asking if it would be easier for them to kind of look into the mid Georgia market and for us to sponsor a deal closer to the market that we're looking at, or you know, if it makes sense. What do you think about that?
Yeah, so
Outside
I
the
saw that
market.
question too. I think it's a great idea to look there. Now, MF Capital definitely has criteria if we're going to sponsor one of your deals, right? Any of you that came to Peak Partnering last month, you would have seen me up there with a few other sponsors on the sponsorship panel. We discussed this a little bit. We have things within our buy box, right, where we want you to hit. And so do you need to buy in Middle Georgia for us to sponsor your deal? Absolutely not. Does your market, though, have to hit a lot of the stuff that we just discussed? Absolutely. So if you came and brought us a deal in Omaha, Nebraska, we would be totally open to looking at it, but it has to hit these things. Is there job growth? Is the economy diverse? Is there diversity in the economy? Is the population growing up? How constrained is the market? How many more units are coming to market? It's one of the things that worries us about some markets, right? Is the market getting a little flooded with new properties? And so that would kind of make us a little nervous too. So if you brought us one in middle Georgia, would it excite us because it could go along with our portfolio? Absolutely. But if you brought us one in wherever, Indianapolis, Indiana, that's great, but tell us why, right? Tell us why. We had one brought the other day in an area called Kokomo, Indiana. In Kokomo, Indiana, when you look at its statistics, they weren't great. Even though Indianapolis is a good market, this little area of Kokomo just wasn't good. And so, yeah, we don't care that it's middle Georgia. We look in other markets ourselves. You're going to hear us buying properties in other markets, but we just want it to hit the things that we just discussed. And that's why I said this webinar kind of has twofold, right? I want to show you our excitement for middle Georgia, but I also want you to realize some of the things that you really need to be studying so you're not wasting times looking at properties and markets that are going to be hard for you to get a sponsor, for example, right? Yeah. Yeah, someone says they've been to Kokomo before. I don't know how nice Kokomo is as a city. It might be great, but go pull it up on the Milken report, Milken. Milken, take it for what you want, but Milken has it rated as the second worst small market in the country right now. Isn't that crazy? And so it's definitely down on the list. It's down on the list. So they'll rank big cities and small cities. The Milken reports will. And so they've got Kokomo where I couldn't even tell you anything else about Kokomo. I just started studying it when someone brought that in. It could be a great place to live. It's not highly rated as far as multifamily is concerned. And for us in moving forward with it. Yeah. So what do you think, Enrique? Any others, man, we want to touch on?
Yeah,
I
I
want
have a
go ahead.
go ahead.
No, go ahead, bud.
Perfect. I had a question from Steve Landon. He basically asked, is Aloha Fund eventually going to invest some money into the property, or I don't know if that's a question that you can answer because I know
Yeah.
Tyler has a lot with that strategy
Yeah,
that he
we'll
gets
go into
involved with.
that quite
So
a bit on the next webinar also.
perfect.
This one that we're buying right now in Foresight that we'll introduce to, we're under contract. It's been negotiated. The PSA signed. Tyler and I head out there actually on Thursday to do our physical walkthrough of the property with our asset management team also. That one will not be touched by the fund. Like we're going to do it a straight 506B. We're going to invite up to 30, 35 non-accredited investors into it. We have a couple other people coming on the GP team that you'll meet next week also, Grace and Hannah coming in onto that property. And so it's really exciting for us that we're going to get to, bring in on the GP side some of our students on that deal also. So it's kind of exciting for us. Now, will we potentially, Steve, do a property in 6 months where the fund buys one of the ones in middle Georgia? Absolutely. Every deal's a little bit different, right? But as far as the one that's under contract right now that we are buying and the one that we're submitting an LOI on, the plan is not to have the fund in on those at all. It's going to be the 506B. So, yep. So guys, I want to point this out here. A couple things. One, like I was saying, we are going to do another webinar here next week. We'll get the time out to you. It's going to be myself and Tyler. Enrique will probably jump back on it also. Hannah and Grace who are on the deal. And we want to let you know about the actual properties now that we're buying there, right? And so we dove kind of into the market this evening over the last 40 minutes, but I want to jump more into now the actual properties and why are we buying this property now in this market, right? So you see a little QR code on there. What that QR code will get you is you see my guy there, Enrique. Him or one of the members of his team, they're our IR team, our investor relations. And so if you're wanting to jump on that webinar and potentially be an investor in that deal, make sure you scan that QR code. It'll take you to a portal where you can set up a time also with Enrique so that we can get you a little bit familiar with the property before we jump into that, into the property next week. Okay. So yeah, someone asked too, Enrique, I saw in the chat, will it be available? We did record this. And so
Yes.
get a hold of Enrique through that QR code there. Let him know, hey, I got a partner or I jumped on late, I was at work or whatever. And we can get the recording out to you so you can make sure that you get a chance to re-listen to it here, okay?
Yeah,
So,
so the QR code will take you to the investor portal. Basically, we do have some offerings that are live already, such as Aloha Fund. They are 506c, so accredited investors participating only at this time. But definitely feel free to go in there and take a look at some of our business plans and what we look for in these properties, and of course, the investor portal there. If you do invest ultimately with us, you will invest through the portal, so get familiar with it. That's why I did place that QR code there. And to kind of go relay on the next webinar, we did have it set for the first week of May, so it's not next week. It'll be within the next 2 weeks. We're still kind of getting the time down with Tyler. Of course, as you guys may know, he's pretty busy, so we're finalizing the details there. But I'll definitely have an email blast go out to you guys, just like the first invite went. And with that email blast in the invite there, I also plan on attaching the recording to this webinar, the market webinar. I'm looking to place both of those within that email. That way you can access the market one if you missed out, and then of course be able to register for the new one that's going to have Tyler himself presenting the property for us. Mm-hmm.
Exactly. All right, guys, we'll let you get to your evenings now. We appreciate you being on the call. We're excited about, as Middle George, as you can see, and we're excited about not just these properties here, but we're going to attack it here for some time, man. And so, you know, I always used to tell people, duplicate what successful people are doing, right? And so the way we attack these markets and have had success, I think you need to look at it that way. And so we're excited that you joined us, guys. We hope everyone has a good night, and then we will see you at the next webinar here coming up in the near future. Thanks, guys.
Take it easy, guys. Thank you.